In this lesson, we'll talk about subdividing our geometry. So the key for our work in Mudbox here is going to be subdividing our geometry to a high enough resolution where we can sculpt all that high-res detail that we want to create. To visualize this, let's go ahead and create a mesh, and let's just create a cube. Alright, so I brought the base cube in here. You can see we've got wireframe turned on, and you can see all of the polygons involved in this cube. The reason that there are so many polygons and it's so high res is that this has multiple subdivision levels. We can see the subdivision levels if we go over into our object list, and under levels it's telling us there are 5 levels. You can also get similar information down here. If we hit the little plus sign, we can see that we have the initial cube, or the initial mesh here, and then we have additional subdivision levels going up here. To move up and down a subdivision level, you're going to use page up or page down. So in this case, page down will take us all the way down to the lowest level, and you can get an indication of that level and the number of polygons here. In order to get rid of a subdivision level, we can go to mesh and we can delete the highest level. So it's going to give us, delete that higher subdivision level. Let's go ahead and delete this all the way down to the base, and then we'll start from scratch. So we'll delete this highest level. So now when we try to do this, it's going to tell us we can't remove the active level. We're all the way at the bottom. And so here you can see we have a cube, and the cube consists of 4 quad faces on each side. Okay, so that's 24 polygons total, which is telling us here 24 faces. So at this point, if we were going to go ahead and try to sculpt something, the only part of the model that we can move in and out or move around are the vertices. And we don't have nearly enough of those to be able to create an interesting shape. That's the reason we'll go in and subdivide it. What subdividing will do is actually take each polygon, in this case the quads subdivide very cleanly, it'll divide it into 4 additional quads. So in order to add a subdivision to our model, you can go up to Mesh, Add New Subdivision Level, which is Shift D. Okay. There are also options right below this for Add New Subdivision Level. If we open up the options, you can see what's currently selected. So with the default, let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So I'll hit Shift D. That's going to do 2 things. It's going to add the geometry. So instead of having 4 faces, now we have 16. So each one of these quads was divided into 4 new quads, which is a nice clean subdivision. The second thing that has happened is that the shape has been smoothed out. So if you've used Maya, something like the smooth node, adding that, it's going to be something similar. So it's not only added the resolution, but also smoothed out the shape. If we were to hit Shift D again to subdivide, it's going to take those faces that it created and divide those even further. So we're going to have those, our initial quad was divided into 4 quads, and then those 4 quads were divided into 4 quads. So basically it's multiplying the number of polygons you have by 4 each time, and again smoothing it out. Now at this point we can get a much finer control over our shape because we have all the additional polygons. Now we can work here at this current level, or we can hit page down to go down to a lower level to modify it. Okay, so if you want to make kind of larger overall changes, you can do that at a lower level, and then page up again to go back to the highest level and start to manipulate it there. And we can start to add lots and lots of new levels until we get to a point where we can come in and really start to create some interesting detail here because we have all the resolution we need to be able to sculpt. And again, you get an indication here and also in your object list how many faces you're actually working with. And then visually, if we turn this wireframe off, you can see it starts to take on kind of a very free-form material, becomes something other than just pushing and pulling points. Now you're almost just adding material like you would to a clay sculpture when it gets a high enough resolution. Okay, and again, you can always go up and down your subdivision levels, and you can set, if you want to set keys on your tablet, express keys to be able to move up and down your subdivision levels, you can do that too. Okay, let's take a look at the options here. So I'm going to go ahead and let's delete this cube, and I'll bring in a new one. Bring in a new cube. Let's go ahead and get rid of higher levels, so I'll go all the way down to level 1. You can turn off smooth shading, and you can see that it is completely sharp here. So we'll go ahead and delete our higher levels until we get down to our lowest. There we go. And let's turn the wireframe back on. So there's a kind of where we started. Let's take a look at the options. So if we jump into the add new subdivision level options, in past versions this has been kind of a little box next to this, but now it's its own separate menu item under mesh. So we'll open this up, and right now it's saying, okay, we want to, when we smooth this, when we subdivide it, we want to not only add the resolution, but we also want to smooth the positions, so smooth out the model, and we don't want to subdivide the UVs or smooth the UVs. In some cases you'll want to check those on. In most cases when you're sculpting, you're going to want to leave the smooth positions on, and then also it has the ability to preserve UV borders, crease hard edges, and so forth. So let me turn off smooth positions, and now when we subdivide this, you can see it has subdivided it, but it didn't do the second thing. It didn't smooth out the shape. And so I've got the subdivisions, but I don't have the smoother shape. And so I can add another subdivision. And now if I go back in and instantly turn this on and subdivide again, now it's going to smooth it. So it's going to give me a result that is smooth from that higher resolution cube, which may or may not be what you want. You can get kind of a different kind of an edge coming in here where it's a little bit softer. You can see that. We get kind of a rounded dice kind of a look. All right, so you just want to make sure that these options are set where you want them when you begin subdividing your model. If you're going to be painting, you may want to subdivide and smooth your UVs. If you're going to be working with kind of the result that is smooth, you want the UVs to kind of match up with the smoothed geometry. Sometimes you'll be able to fix that if you end up getting stretching on your textures and some of these edges where the edges and the UVs are kind of really close together, but the edges on the model get stretched out because they're being smoothed. You can remedy some of that with the smooth UVs. Okay, so again, up and down with page up and page down. You can move up and down your subdivision levels. Shift D will create a new subdivision level, and you can access and see those subdivision levels over here in your object list. And this is really vital for being able to sculpt all of your detail. We really need that resolution to be able to work with. All right, so let's look at subdividing our geometry. Let's just talk a little bit more in the next lesson about working with and manipulating geometry in our scene. So go ahead and talk about that next.